My first reflection is on the nature of teaching. And so I find it really fascinating that there are certain subjects where I often hear from students, oh, that class is so boring. And I think the most common place where I hear this is with middle school and high school math. In contrast, there are other things that are taught where I basically never hear those words. And I think two examples that come to mind are music and sports. And so my first reflection is that music offers a great model for teaching. And I'd like to do just a quick thought experiment to compare and contrast the way that math is typically taught in the K through 12 education system and the way that music is often taught. With math, students will typically learn in the context of a classroom. So they're with, say 30 other kids, 30 other students. With music, a student often learns in the context of one-on-one sort of private instruction. With math, the main activity in class is often the teacher lecturing at the chalkboard. With music, the main activity in a lesson is the student playing. With math, the content is often structured as sort of semester-long courses. So you finish one class, you go on to a different class, often with a different teacher. With music, you often study with the same teacher for many, many years. And so you develop a lot of trust with your teacher. And finally, with math, the class is mandatory. Like how you feel about the class doesn't really matter. Whether you love it or you hate it, your feelings are irrelevant. You have to take it, it's compulsory. With music, if you have a Chinese tiger mother like mine, also compulsory. But one of the things that I've sort of explored in the last 6 years is, both in the classroom and also in my research lab, is the question, what can I learn as an engineering professor from the way that music teachers and sports coaches teach and engage their students in learning? And that's something that I hope to continue exploring in the future. Now, I've been very fortunate to have some really, really wonderful teachers and mentors throughout my educational journey. I had a really phenomenal middle school math teacher named Rhonda Naylor, who really sparked my love of math. I had a wonderful math teacher in high school named Norm Lydeen, who provided a lot of opportunities for me to grow outside of the classroom. An engineering professor in college named Bernard Widrow, who was a really strong supporter and encouraged me to go back to graduate school, and a great PhD advisor and mentor, Nelson Morgan, during my graduate studies. And so I've been really fortunate to have really wonderful teachers and mentors throughout my educational journey. And I want to focus for just a second on the one teacher that had the biggest impact on my life. And that is my piano teacher, Mrs. Chen, Patricia Chen. She taught me piano from the age of 5 all the way until the age of 17 when I left for college. And so she was with me through like a lot of changes and sort of, phases of my life. And she was just a constant in my life. Like every Friday afternoon, she was always there to challenge me and to push me to continue to improve and to grow in my skills. And so a big part of the reason why this lecture is in the form of a piano recital is that actually one of the things on my bucket list is I always wanted to have a piano recital to honor Mrs. Chen. And so, she is joining live from Colorado. And so, Mrs. Chen, I just want to say to you, just thank you so much for all that you've done for me and so many of your students, for passing along to us your love of music and for bringing so much joy into our lives. A big part of the reason why I went into the teaching profession is that, I've been able to experience firsthand how much of an impact teachers like you and many others have had, can have on a student. And so I'm just very, very grateful for you. So thank you. So I want to introduce the first piece on the program. This is a pretty fun piece. It's kind of a hidden gem. It's a pretty obscure piece. I'm pretty sure that none of you has ever heard this piece except for maybe Mrs. Chen. It's composed by a contemporary Russian composer named Nikolai Kapustin. Now, Kapustin has a very interesting background. He went to a well-known Russian conservatory of music that was known for their technical virtuosity. But when he was a teenager, he fell in love with jazz music. And so he went on to create this really, really interesting genre of music that combines the technical virtuosity of classical piano music and the style of jazz. So it kind of sounds like jazz on steroids. It's in the style of jazz, but it's something that you would never hear performed in a jazz concert because it's too complex and difficult to improvise on the spot. It's something that really has to be learned slowly and methodically, as with all sort of classical piano music. So what you're going to be hearing is the first movement of the Kapustin Sonata No. 2, accompanied in the background by my misbehaving children.